Hi, welcome to Flash Fantasy. Today, Norris and I are here to break down the AFC South Division and help you win your leagues in a flash. Let's get started. We're going to start with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, no place better to start than their quarterback, the one, the only Gardner Minshew. He came in last year. He started blowing it up. Did great when it came to the overall leadership of the team, and not just that, but people were going crazy over him. Now, whether it was over his play or just his mustache, Minshew mania was going everywhere, all over the NFL, all over the United States, even in London when they played a game there. So I think we could see some more Minshew mania. But let's talk about the stats when it came to Minshew mania. He played and he threw for some great long balls, and he had some great players like DJ Chark and Leonard Fournette around him. And this year he has even more, like Chris Thompson and Tyler Eifert signing with the Jaguars. He finished 19th in PPR, had 470 attempts for 285 completions, and threw for over 3,000 yards. And with only 21 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, that's kind of what you want to see from your quarterback when he only plays for 14 games. So, I mean, put 2 more games onto there. Maybe he hits a little bit closer to 4,000. Maybe he gets more completions and more touchdowns. But we will never know, right, until this year, where he has a starting role locked up. The Jacksonville Jaguars traded away Nick Foles, so I think they have the confidence in him. And I think I can put a little bit of confidence into him as well. He's not so much my week-to-week starting quarterback, but he can definitely fill roles where I need them. I can stream him when I need him as well, because most leagues he'll probably be available in. Or if you want to draft him late in your redraft leagues, and maybe you're in a 14-team league where you need another quarterback as your backup or so on. Maybe you have an injury-prone quarterback that you can use a backup. Gardner Minshew kind of fills that role late. I wouldn't pick him up until he's practically free in redraft leagues, but he also has some mobility when it comes to his game. He rushed for 67 attempts and got 344 yards, which is an average of 5.13 yards per carry. So I think he may not be the most mobile quarterback, but he's just definitely working on his speed and quickness. He even released a statement not too long ago about working on his arm strength, speed, and quickness since the Super Bowl. And so now those listening in May, that's about 3 months ago. So he's been going nonstop, just trying to get that arm strength and speed and quickness going, ready for the starting role position. So what do you think, Norris?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, man. I think that Gardner Minshew is a good quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars in particular. One thing I like about that kid, man, I mean, this is the first year that we're seeing him in a professional setting, obviously drafted from Washington State in the 6th round. So he knows how to air it out. That's one thing he knows how to do. He was actually 4th among quarterbacks in deep ball completion ratings with 45%. That's a pretty good number to have, I think, especially given with that offense, man. They weren't always in the greatest position offensively. 7 out of their 10 losses were more than one possession deficit, and so as a quarterback, you want to put your team in the best position to win. Of course, it takes the defense as well to stop the opponents, but with Gardner Minshew and the caliber that he possibly could play at, I think that they could be a good team. They won 10 last year. I think they have a better record. They might win like 8 games. I can see, with their schedule coming up, it's not that easy. They have to go up against the Bears defense. They have to go up against the Titans defense. Of course, the Texans and Titans twice. They also play the Ravens, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Packers, the Vikings. These defenses, the past defenses at least, out of these teams, they're going to be a challenge. So we'll see what Gardner Minshew has in his bag. I think he'll finish, in top 20 this year, probably around the 18 spot. But we'll see. 3,200 yards that's decent. Again, it was his first season, and he put up 21-6. 3,200 yards. Like you said, finished 19th in PPR. So I think that he's in a pretty good position. And, Jay Gruden out there as the offensive coordinator now. So I don't know too much about how effective Chris Thompson will be with helping Gardner Minshew back. Like, we'll see how it all plays out, man.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Jay Gruden kind of adds to Gardner Minshew's and his overall, I think, scheme with Gardner Minshew. We've seen him use mobile quarterbacks in the past when it comes to somebody like RG3 or even somebody is less mobile like Case Keenum. He loves going for those short passes, those midfield. And we'll see what Gardner Minshew can make happen with these wide receivers that are around him. But I think some guys that he has skill guys around him, like Leonard Fournette and DJ Chark. Now Norris has him around 18th. I'm a little bit more bullish on him. I think I'm going to put him around 15, anywhere from 15 or 16. Again, I don't think he's going to be that top 10 guy, but I can definitely see him make a step up in his career and use all 16 games to his advantage. Like we said, he only played 14 games last year, and he did what he did. So I can see him honestly improve more and more, maybe even towards the back half of the top 10, maybe 12 or 13. But right now I have him placed at my 15th quarterback overall. Talking about skilled players around him, let's move on to Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette had a decent year last year. I mean, he finished inside the top 10 with 7th overall in PPR leagues. He had 265 attempts and 1,152 rushing yards. And now the biggest stump for Leonard Fournette is his touchdowns. He only had 3 rushing touchdowns all year. We hate to see that. I mean, a lot of people drafted him in the first round last year, and they suffered because of that lack of touchdowns. Now I think we're going to see a great impression go up from where he was last year, from 3 to at least a little bit more. And now this is actually the only year he's played almost all 16 games. He did sit out at the end of last year though, due to what looks to be a neck/illness listed on the official injury report. So he was inactive only 1 game that whole year compared to his whole career. He sat out. He's only played 8 and 13 before that. So playing 15 games is a pretty good jump for Leonard Fournette, and still being in the top 10 is what you want to see with with only 3 touchdowns. He did have 100 targets for 76 receptions and 522 yards, which you love to see. And now that Gardner Minshew will be taking over full-time in that role, I can see him dumping off to Leonard Fournette even more. So we can project him to be around the 100 to 120 range because there's not a lot of skill players taking those targets away from Leonard Fournette. I think Leonard Fournette, he could stay within the top 10. I have him just a little bit outside. I have him finishing 12th on the year just because of the role of the other fantastic running backs that we see this year and the roles that they fill in their team. What about you, Norris?
Yeah, the interesting thing about Leonard Fournette, this is possibly the last year that we see him in a Jags uniform. So he might be extra aggressive in how he plays and whatnot. Who knows? But like you said, with the addition of Chris Thompson, I don't know how healthy Chris Thompson is going to be. He obviously has not proven himself to be a player of longevity or consistency for that matter. So I don't think that he repeats, that 100 or 76 reception year out of 100 targets. I'm kind of skeptical on thinking about it that way. But the concern for me with Leonard Fournette, I really like him. He is a really good running back, and he has a great yard per carry and whatnot, but he's got to get into that end zone more, obviously, with only 3 rushing touchdowns. But also the Jacksonville Jaguars, they have to make sure that this man has, a consistent amount of carries per game. You can't, last year, you can't go from 29 carries in a game to 19 to 11 to 8 and then back to 24. That's not going to set Leonard Fournette up for a good track throughout the year, which will probably, if he's on that level. But he did what he did with that offense and with that game scheme and finished 7th. So that says a lot about the player that he is and how he gets his points, which is obviously last year he had a great year in regard to receiving. He still ran, for 1,152 yards. That's great. Honestly, if you look at when I looked at the numbers, it kind of reminded me of like a year or two ago when Julio Jones, he was getting 100-yard game, 100-yard game, 100-yard game, and he finished the season with like 2 touchdowns. You know,
Right.
And so when I saw that, I was like, wow, that's funny. But yeah, with Leonard Fournette, I think he's going to do well this year. I hope that his injuries doesn't linger on. If he does have any, lingering injuries to even be concerned about. But yeah, I think it'll be a good year for him again.
Yeah, and I agree. Like I said, right outside my top 10. Now, there is the issue of the Jacksonville defense not being what they were last year, missing some key pieces, being traded away or being let go. So I see them throwing the ball a lot more than running it, and that could really affect Leonard Fournette. But I think overall, like you said, his yards per carry are great. And attempts that he needs, he can continue to improve and grow and his yards overall. So let's move on. We'll talk about him for just a second here. But Chris Thompson coming into the Jacksonville Jaguars with Jay Gruden, like we said earlier, he loved him in the Washington. He was that kind of vulture that you might want to look out for. He might take those receptions or maybe even take one to the house every now and then. But again, he's not somebody to be too concerned about. He's not somebody I would draft in any kind of redraft league. He might be if you hear anything about an injury report or something with Leonard Fournette being traded, that's when his value really goes up. But right now, there's no takers on Leonard Fournette trades, even though the Jacksonville Jaguars had some rumors of them looking to trade Leonard Fournette. So overall, that's somebody to keep an eye on, but not really put in any time to invest in with Chris Thompson. And so with that, let's move on to the next best skill player on the team, and that's DJ Chark. He finished the year 17th overall in PPR. He had 118 targets for 78 receptions and a little bit over 1,000 yards, and he had 8 touchdowns on the year, which is great. They even gave him some rushing attempts, not too many, 2 rushing attempts. So maybe they're trying to make him a little bit more versatile in that backfield, but he really took that sophomore leap, like we like to call it. So he went from being a rookie 2 years ago to now playing and being that number 1 option on the team with Gardner Minshew. And even though he had people like Dede Westbrook and Keenan Cole and at a point last year, Marquise Lee, who's now with the New England Patriots, Gardner Minshew used DJ Chark a lot. He was pretty much that guy to go to, especially when it came to different end zone targets. We've seen him get a lot of those. But overall, his yards per carry is what I like to look at, and that's pretty great. I mean, 13.81 yards per catch. 13.81, and then yards per target is 8.54. So then you have about a 5-yard difference each time he catches the ball, which is exactly what you want to see. So if he's catching 2 a game, he's getting you those points in PPR leagues. And like I said, the red zone usage is great. And overall, he looks like Gardner Minshew's number 1 option on the offense. And we could definitely see him go down and take one short play and turn it into a great touchdown. So what do you think about DJ Chark this year?
Yeah, DJ Chark, he's definitely a good option to have as far as drafting and whatnot. For me personally, on my team, the way my team is set up, I'd probably have him as a flex type of role because he has a 61% catch rate from last year. That's not beautiful. It's 73 catches, 118 targets. He has a 25% contested catch rate. 25%. So 1 out of 4 times that I throw the ball up to DJ Chark, he'll come down with it. The other 3 out of 4 times, he's either getting picked off or knocked down.
Right.
Again, I can't exactly – if we had the ability to show you some highlights to match that up, that would be fantastic. But, I just know that with – yeah, with DJ Chark, and again, I'm going to bring this up probably a little bit more than people expect, but the defenses that they're going to have to go up against, it's going to be tough. The Steelers, the Vikings, the Bears, the Titans. These are times it's going to be a great opportunity for him to prove himself. But with him being the number 1 guy in Jacksonville, he had great amount of receiving touchdowns. 8 touchdowns. So that's a good number to have, 1,008 yards. He's just not the guy that I'm, I guess, promoting, to go and get him. He's your sleeper guy, or he's somebody that you need on your team, because, again, Gardner Minshew, he's still proving himself, and he has to work through his flaws. So that process is going to affect DJ Chark's output. So I would say just, for those of you who are high on DJ Chark, slow down just a little bit, and make sure that you evaluate the full scheme of what the Jacksonville Jaguars are doing.
Yeah, so there you guys have it. We have two different takes on DJ Chark. I'm going to put him with my wide receiver 2, or even if I have to, my wide receiver 1. Now, I wouldn't draft him as that, but if I had to, say there's better running backs and he falls to me later on in the draft, I'm definitely okay with taking DJ Chark as my wide receiver 1. So, Norris, do you have that same confidence in him, or?
Not at wide receiver 1. I mean, he finished 17th last year, and so I wouldn't have him as my number 1. I would say a number 2. Now, I'm not going to disrespect him and say fringe wide receiver 2, but he is a wide receiver 2. And like I said, for my situation on my team, of course, this is a team-by-team type of situation. I think on my team he would be fit in as a flex versus me starting him week to week.
Yeah, and those of you that don't know our teams, don't worry. Later on, closer to the regular season, we'll be premiering our drafts. And so that way you guys get to look at how we play our different teams in our own keeper league. So let's move on to the key players that we can kind of touch on. Like I said earlier, they did sign Tyler Eifert, and they have Keenan Cole still, Dede Westbrook, and Chris Thompson. These are guys, like I said, they're not going to be these number 1 guys unless something significant happens to the guys in front of them. Tyler Eifert being the tight end, like we like to call him, the glass man. He could be.
Yes, he is indeed.
He could be gone and done for a whole year after 1 week. So I mean, yeah, and there's some other guys out there like James O'Shaughnessy and Josh Oliver, who they just drafted. So I think there might be some production in the tight ends, but it's never really consistent. So it's not really worth drafting or putting on your radar overall. But if you want to keep an eye on them, maybe you have some stock invested in the Jacksonville Jaguars and you just like knowing who's next up on the totem pole, there you have it. With that, any other notes that you want to throw in there with the Jacksonville Jaguars?
A little bit harsh on him. He threw on average 233 yards per game in the passing game. So I think if they do something similar to that where he's throwing for around 230 to 250 per game and you're able to rush for about 100, 110 per game, I think you'll be in a good position of having good ball control and time of possession. So again, but realistically, they finished 6-10, and that division is getting better and better every year. So I'm not sure if this is the year you want to place your bets on the Jacksonville Jaguars winning this division. So
right, no bias from the Tennessee Titans fan, exactly.
None at all. Completely objective. I am a realist.
Right, 100%. Thanks for watching. For the rest of our AFC South breakdown, we'll be posting them on our YouTube channel for the next couple of days, or you could check out our podcast for the full breakdown of the AFC South.